Hello everyone, welcome to the Art Lounge Alley. This is Figure Drawing Basics Part 88. I am your host, and this is what I'm currently working on. So what are you looking at here? Well, I started out this week by starting a new lesson, by starting out something different, a fresh beginning to the week. This lesson is about how you can use photo references or models, whatever it is that you're using, whether it's something like this, for example. This is something that I sculpted from clay. It's a great tool for things like light source, studying the face in different angles, perspective, etc., that sort of thing. I've yet to finish it. I got to put in the eyes. It's something that kind of putting off, to be honest. I should just sit down and finish it, but there is some use to it as far as just showing the forms of shadows that happen when you have the light source on the face. But yeah, that's still something that I'm going to be working on. I'm going to have that there so you guys can actually see what the eyes are like when it comes to shadows forming, or where the light sources and where the highlights are on the eyes, etc., that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just whether you're using something like this and you draw it out, or you have like a photograph that you're working from, you can use it to create other faces. So in this example here, I was just copying the position of the head and just borrowing little elements here and there. For example, how to draw the eye or the direction of the eye. You could see that it's a little bit more slanted. The head tilt, the creases in the forehead. Obviously this guy is bald. He doesn't have the same hair. He had mustache there. I gave him a bigger mustache. So you're just taking elements and maybe amplifying them more, maybe exaggerating them more, elongating them, all that kind of stuff. Really, the world is your oyster when it comes to this. You're able to just change things around as you like, but the guide is there for you. That's something there to just remind you, hey, if you get stuck, or if you need a little bit of a inspiration or something to work off of, it's there for you. It's great to draw the model on the page, or somewhere that's close by, so that way, if this is a twofold, so you could maybe draw it on one side if you're looking to do like a clean drawing or a drawing dedicated to a specific character. You could do it on one side of the sketchbook and then complete it on the other side. That way you have the reference in close range. It's not somewhere at a distance or whatever else, and that's going to quicken your pace, and it's going to keep you focused. You're not distracted by looking at anything else, and you could always refer to it in your sketchbook. Let's say you're out and about somewhere and you got this small one. You could pull it out and you can use it as a reference for something else that you're working on, maybe a different type of face. So all these examples are based on this model. You guys can see that there's similarity there. There's a similarity in face expression, similarity in the tilt of the head, certain features, even light source as well. You could see that underneath the chin here. It's the same case here and here, slightly there as well. You can use it for multiple things, as I mentioned, for facial hair, for tilt of the face, for features on the face itself, to a light source. I'm going to continue on today. I'm going to give you guys more examples with a different model and a different angle. And speaking of, and that's something I haven't spoken about for a while, for those of you who are looking to really improve your work and need to find some time within your day and to stay motivated, I recommend you guys get something like this. This is an excellent pad. It's hard for me to recommend this because it's been hard to find sketchbooks, these sketchbooks, because I've had these for a while. But look for the same quality paper. As you can see, this is like pretty thick, you know, in comparison to this very flimsy paper. This is why I abandoned the sketchbook, or never really took time to really complete it like you saw in my previous sketchbook. But yeah, this is flimsy paper. You could see that this has more thickness to it. You know, it has like an index card kind of feel to it, which means you could work on with multiple mediums. You could use pen, you could use you know, slightly wet mediums. You could even probably use watercolor on this if you're careful about it. But markers, you know, that sort of thing, it works well with this kind of paper. If you look for a paper that's more of like an index card kind of, it's in between of a smooth and rough surface. Like, it still has some texture to it, so you could you know, the pencil isn't gliding on it, which is something I don't like. You know, maybe you might enjoy that. It's really up to you. Whatever motivates you, whatever makes you enjoy the process, then it's a good fit. But for me personally, I don't like really smooth paper. I don't like how it feels when I'm drawing with a pencil. It just feels like it's kind of gliding on plastic almost. But this is right in between that. And also, I don't like really coarse texture. That's really frustrating for me, because I like smooth lines, whereas with coarse paper, that's not the case, especially when it comes to shading as well. Like, maybe I have it here. You could see that you're able to have like smooth transitions, and the texture doesn't really get in the way of that. Whereas if you have something that's like a rougher texture, the paper is like a medium tooth. You know, these are all terms that they have on sketchbooks, like texture, tooth. So it's like a medium tooth or a coarse tooth, like, then you're gonna have a lot of like grainy sort of results when it comes to shading, when it comes to making certain lines. And I don't like that. But this paper is in the middle of it. It's a pocket size. This is why I'm really bringing it up. So you could put it in your book bag. You could put it in your pocket. You can carry it around with you if you're, like, let's say you're on a subway, or if you're on a bus, or like whatever, public transportation. You could just pull this out and do all sorts of little exercises. You know, you don't have to go into a crazy amount of detail, because public transportation isn't the smoothest ride, and you don't have the best setting for it. But things like practicing shading, you know, going from highlights to shadows, pretty simple exercises. You could see, you could fill up an entire page, and that trains multiple things. It's not only your shading, it's not only your shading technique, it's not only just learning how to have a smooth transition from highlights to shadows. You're also training your ability to control the pencil better. And you can keep things in mind, like, don't press too hard. You know, you want to start out light and then just gradually build your way up to a dark shadow. Even in the darkest area, you could just go over the area multiple times and just press just a little bit harder each time, just a little bit, and that gives you more control over your pencil, while still maintaining this like light sort of process. And that's a great thing to learn. That's a great thing to get in a habit of. You know, you want to teach yourself good habits in the beginning, so you don't fight them off later while you're trying to improve as well. You know, you want to make that process easier, and you want to really start focusing on the material rather than the technique as you improve, as you get better and better. So great exercise for that. You can have multiple things in mind, like I mentioned, keeping it light, not holding the pencil too close to the tip, because again, that obstructs your vision. You want to keep a distance, so that way when you're drawing the figure, for example, you're able to eye the proportion, and you're able to see like the entire figure in relation to what you're drawing. You know, when you're drawing the leg, you want to see, how does it match with the other leg? Whereas if you do something like this, you could see that it's kind of obstructing the drawing. So I find it a really good technique. I find it to be very useful. it's not a style. I'm not looking at it as a style. I'm looking at it as like, it seems practical to have that, to be able to see the entire drawing as you're sketching things out. And plus it's a very loose, free-flowing sort of process, rather than when it comes down to this, which can be useful. I think you just have to be mindful of what you need to do, but the default, I think, is best when you're keeping a distance. And then when you really need detail, after you've gotten used to your way of sketching things out, after you got used to holding your pencil this way, not pressing too hard, you can vary things and be like, okay, now let me just go into detail and really work on it. But the more I practice this technique, the less I really needed to do that. And I even do detail at this distance while really looking and paying attention to everything around. It just helps construct the entire drawing that way. Anyways, so that's another thing. You're keeping it light, you're practicing your shading technique from light until dark, from highlight until shadow, having it a smooth transition, not holding the pencil too close, not holding it too tight. All that can be done in this sketchbook using this really simple exercise. You're not doing something complicated. It's not something you have to sit and come up with, character and so on and so forth. It's something almost mindless. And it gives you that freedom mentally to keep in mind these really good habits that you want to teach yourself in the beginning. And then, of course, if you get bored, you could practice things like cross-hatching. That's really helpful. It gives you more control over your lines, gives you more confident lines. The more often you do it, the more it could be, you feel like you have better control over that, and that transitions into your drawing as well. You could practice basic shapes. This is very important. This is something that pretty much starts, as you could see here, starts the drawing. You're going to use the head as the unit of measurement for proportion, to make sure that things really do line up, etc. So the best way to do that is to make sure that the head itself is proportionate. You don't want to give the head like an oblong shape or just some careless kind of shape in general, because then if you use it as a unit of measurement, it's going to ripple through the rest of the body. For example, half the head is the width of the arm. So measure half the head, boom, you got width of the arm. But if you have this warped, if this side is really big for some reason because you didn't take time to draw the perfect circle, if it's warped, you're going to measure that, and then this arm is going to be really wide, whereas this one is going to be more narrow. And then other parts of the body, you're going to use the head as the unit of measurement, and that's going to ripple through as well. For example, the width of the torso is 3 heads across. But if the head is warped and too wide, then you're going to measure it out, and it's going to make a really wide torso. And other parts of the body, when you connect them, once you establish the width, then let's say the waist is going to be a certain size of the head. That's going to be like 1.5 heads. So you're going to do that and then connect it. It's just going to look disastrous after a while. So you want to make sure you practice these shapes that are going to be useful throughout the entire drawing. Cylinder shape, how to shade that. That's another thing that you could use to practice shading if you get bored doing these bars. You could use it on the circle as well, as you could see here. So just in general, great tool, great sketchbook to have with you. I put duct tape on the covers all around to make sure that the cover stays on, because if you carry it around, it's a pretty flimsy cover. But, as I mentioned, you could find your sketchbook probably with a harder cover for that reason. You're going to be carrying it around, so you want to make sure that it lasts. So that pretty much does it for that. Just wanted to do a little quick review of that. I haven't done that in a really long time, but I think it's very important. If you're looking to get better, that's the way to do it. You want to make sure you get that down. This is kind of frustrating, so I'm gonna have to fold it. So today I'm gonna be doing another face as a reference, and then showing you guys what you could do to improve your other drawings, or to create drawings from this reference. So this time it's profile. It's in profile view. And again, I started out with a circle, and then the cup shape, instead of it being directly down like you would have for a frontal view, it's at an angle to create the chin. So I'm just gonna do a light sketch. If you guys haven't noticed, I chose different music today to mix things up, and also Pretzel is changing it up as well. It's a nice change of pace. You know, it's something that I haven't done. I'm just taking the time to make sure I draw the details for you guys to be able to see, and how that's going to affect other drawings. Kind of making up things because the photo reference isn't exactly the most crisp image, so it's kind of difficult to see certain things here and there. But a good opportunity to practice creative control, just being able to just come up with my own understanding, my own lines, which is essentially what this lesson is about. It's just being able to work with what you got and not fully rely on it to the T, you know, just have it there as something to work off of. I think it's just a goal of mine whenever working from references, whenever working from photos, to get down as much detail as possible, to take my attention to detail to the next level. You know, it's just something that I think I've conditioned myself to do while I've been like pushing to like get better and improve. And I always find working from photos or working from references or copying photos, you know, copying from real life is an excellent opportunity to do that. There's like always minute little details that can help your hand-eye coordination get better, sync it up better. I want to say that she's kind of in a awkward pose. From the reference, the photo reference, it seems like she's really straining her neck. I wonder if that has something to do with like wanting to stand up straight, you know, because at that time, and this is an old photo, I'm gonna say this is a photo from like, I don't know, 50s, late 40s or something. And at that time, schools were ridiculously strict with your posture. Like, you have to stand up straight, and part of that was to bring your, like, they would have like a long ruler that they would line down, and then like you would have to, the back of your head has to touch the ruler, the shoulders have to touch the ruler, so on and so forth, to straighten out your back. So I think some of these people got like scared into always standing in that position, and their neck always like pulling itself back. Just terrible school regulations and education. Just like stupid stuff like that. Not that I'm saying posture is a bad thing. It's actually very good. It's just more of a, there's like a healthier approach to it. Or things like, and this is something that actually happened to me when I was growing up, when I was like really young. Teachers would slap your hand if you drew with the left. And the reason for that is it's like a religious thing where they're saying, oh, if you write with your left, then you're considered to be a sinner, or you're like a devil's child or something, you know, some ridiculous nonsense like that. So they would like abuse kids in school and scare them into doing things out of like this nonsensical theory. Like, how does that even connect? And I think, in fact, that, you know, the way your hand works is like your left hand is controlled by your right brain hemisphere, whereas your right hand is controlled by the left hemisphere of your brain. And each half of the brain is responsible for different things. So I think the right hemisphere has to do with like creativity, whereas the left hemisphere has to do with more of like mathematical, logical sort of things. So, or it could be reversed. I'm not 100% sure on it. I think that's something I have to look up. Let me take a look at it, actually. I'm kind of curious. Yep, that's it. That's what it is. So I think because well, the left brain is connected to your right hand. So the left brain is responsible for things like analytical thought, logic, language, reasoning, science, math, and written and number skills. So they're basically training you to have that part of your brain active through writing, you know, whereas the other hand, your left hand, is connected to your right brain. And that has to do with creativity and all that kind of stuff. So like, it's kind of like a fascist agenda, I'm going to say, you know, because it's not like people who write with their left hand are incapable of using logic and reason and math skills, and they have no math skills or whatever else. It's just a matter of like how much of that brain or that part of the brain is activated. So they really wanted you to stay focused on that hemisphere of the brain. They don't want you to get too creative. You know, that's going to be a compromise to their agendas. You know, it really was at that time period, that whole like conservative sort of approach and the awful things that they taught in schools. Like, there was a gallery exhibit that I went to actually, and it was talking about, it had photographs of school teachers of that time in the 50s, I think early 50s, maybe like late 40s even, where teachers were holding up like white and black dolls to like a black child, and they were saying like, you know, this is you and you have like these sort of rights, and this is them, and they have, you know, so they're basically, or even worse stuff, like, I don't want to say the wrong stuff on it, but it's interesting to look up. You guys should try to research that. I can't remember exactly, but it was a lot of racist, awful stuff where they were trying to just make black children feel really out of place and awful about themselves because of their skin color. It was repulsive. Like, I was so outraged when I was looking at this gallery exhibit and seeing all those photos and reading like what the context of these photos were. I was like, that is disgusting. Like, how can people allow that? You know, how did parents allow that in schools? And they should have been like protesting and like really breathing down the neck of these like education systems and places. Like, it was, oh, still thinking about it, and I'm just disgusted by that behavior. So just like, you know, considering how bad that was, and how they had these like nasty teachers, you know, uneducated teachers coming in and teaching this stuff, like, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the agenda. You know, they would slap the hand of the child who's writing with their left, because again, they want you to be like this like math expert and logic and reason and just thinking in only these terms. And instead of actually explaining that, they're like, oh, you're gonna go to hell, or you're like a sinner if you continue to do that. You know, so like, of course they would jump to those like fanatical ways of explaining or going about teaching kids, so to like scare them into submission or whatever. They're just really nasty tactics. Fascist tactics. Those are absolutely like Nazi tactics. But yeah, I think that's just a tangent from like how she's holding herself up in this reference, in this photo. And just kind of like sparked that thought in my head, like, why? You know, I did remember actually these stringent, nonsensical rules. So I wouldn't be surprised. You know, she's an older woman, as you guys could see, and she's probably traumatized from that era, you know, from like how strict and crazy these teachings were. And now they're trying to actually go back to that. Like, I was reading an article, and you guys can look this up. I was reading an article about how certain schools are trying to bring back corporal punishment, which is basically like abusing kids for disobedience, whatever that is. You know, whatever their definition of that is. And if they had teachers back in the day who were abusing kids and psychologically like harassing them, as I mentioned with those like photographs, imagine what kind of teachers they're going to be hiring who are going to be enjoying this corporal punishment, like literally getting off of it. Like, they're as if though those kind of people don't exist anymore, and that those kind of people wouldn't try to get themselves employed for the sake of these benefits, quote, like that they're going to be getting. You know, like sick mental people are going to be getting these positions. And it's not like they're making it a lot harder for you to become a teacher because it's such a well-paying job. It's in fact, they're like just hiring anybody to do it because they don't want better education. And by they, I mean capitalists, fascists, and Republicans. A lot of them don't want intelligent people because that's going to get in the way of their authoritarian fascist agenda. You know, they don't want smart people being like, hey, what you're saying is a bunch of bullshit. All right, like you're saying a bunch of nonsense and it doesn't make any sense, and you're contributing towards the worst part of human history and human development and improvement. You're not improving anything, you're just taking it back to where it was. So now they want to bring back corporal punishment where kids are going to get like spankings and beatings or whatever by teachers. It's just sick mental people, man. And they're making decisions about the trajectory of civil development, civilizations, like people getting along better because they have better education. Like, they don't want that. These are severely damaged people. And it just creates like traumatized kids and damaged kids, and then, you know, they have terrible relationships because that's their foundation. Their foundation is these like abusive, nonsensical rules, regulations, behaviors that they witness, and they think, oh, okay, well, I guess that's how it is. You know, so many kids end up growing up that way, especially if their environment breeds that, and especially if people you depend on to guide you as you're growing up are telling you, you know, no, what you're doing is wrong. It's not how we like you to do it, despite it, you know, them being completely wrong for what they demand. So you have like these gaslight kids growing up and then doing the same thing to their kids. You know, it's just this like cycle that they perpetuate. Insane. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the inner workings of the hair. There's like a couple of layers there. It's just, again, just to give you an idea of what the model looks like, what I'm going to be working off of. A little bit of shadow here and there. Some shadow underneath the chin, obviously, from all the folds. The light source not reaching that area. And, you know, just going back to all that other stuff, I hope you guys who are reviewing this, that you guys make a plan to vote. It's very, very, very important for this, you know, because as you guys have seen throughout the pandemic, that a lot of the decisions aren't resting on the shoulders of the president when it comes to like actual proper process of, you know, lawmaking and all that other stuff. Like in the democratic process, it doesn't only rest on the shoulders of the president. It relies on, it heavily depends on Congress. You know, people who represent each state, represent each town and city, and so on and so forth, and they have to vote, come to an agreement, make decisions before that bill moves to the president. So once they agree on it in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, that bill moves on. And what they've done now is like they have this division. So anytime Democrats want to do things like, let's say, student loan forgiveness, right? That's something some of you might be experiencing and that you need, and you should absolutely get, because you didn't get the full advantage of what you're paying for. You're going into debt for something you didn't even get a chance to take advantage of during those years of the pandemic. You weren't able to go to the facilities. You weren't able to get the full potential of teachers and classroom environment and everything that benefits from it. Yet they're like charging you interest rate, and on top of that, charging you full price for those periods. It's a scam. It's an absolute scam, and you should absolutely get student loan forgiveness for it. Anyways, so a lot of them blocked it there in Congress. All Republicans in Congress voted against it. So they're there to make your life better, but instead they're just saying, nope, you know, you voted us in, well, sucks for you. We're taking all that money for ourselves. You know, we're not distributing it in a way that makes it easier for you to get a job, to get a well-paying job, for you to be able to, you know, build a future for yourself that makes you happier. No, we're going to make that a lot harder for you and just load the pockets of our friends in personal interests, corporations that have been, you know, schmoozing us and giving us money so that we can make more money for them. Like, we don't care about your interests as citizens who elected us, who got us in a position of like reaping all the benefits of your taxes. Like, no, we're just gonna line the pockets of our friends and personal interests. And they've been voting no on everything. You know, when people needed baby formula, they said no. Gas price bills, like anti-price gouging at pumps, they're like, nope, we're going to allow that. So everything, basically, to make your life worse. That's what they've been doing. And you guys could check all this stuff. You know, it's not just like me making this stuff up to make a point. All those things I mentioned, you could do a little research. Go to congress.gov, and you'll see all that stuff there. You'll see all the votes, all the representatives, and all of them who were Republicans said no. We're not going to vote to make things better. Hurricane Ian voted no on relief for people who went through it. Just like insane sociopathic people are in there. They don't care about anything other than profits and themselves. But the job is the total opposite. The job is to care about the people, you know, care about the people who elected them. And there's a bunch of people who are Republican who consider themselves Republican supporters, let's just say, because the Republicans are the ones that are in the House, who are getting bills, like, who are making the bills, who are making all these, like, who are working in the White House. You're just a supporter. You know, if you're a Democrat or you consider yourself a Democrat or a Republican, you're just a supporter. You're not actually one of them. And they wouldn't care what happens to you, obviously. But it's just amazing that people who consider themselves supporters for Republicans, they're getting screwed big time, and they're still like supporting the people who are like basically feeding them to the lions. It's a weird psychosis. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, I'm gonna stay miserable for the sake of just supporting people who are making my life more miserable. Makes no sense. It's craziness. That's like the epitome of crazy. Like, despite your circumstances, you're still voting to make your life worse for yourself. Out of spite, out of whatever, competitiveness. Like, it's that form of it reached that form of like crazy where it's just they're voting against their own interests, which you could see how toxic competitiveness is. Like, this is where it gets you, where people's lives aren't even important. It's about winning. Like, how this abstract concept, something that people have made up, becomes more important than life itself, more important than babies, having infant formula. Like, absolutely crazy people should not be responsible for leading the economy. But anyways, it's just all to highlight how important it is, for you guys to vote in the midterms, to make sure that the House of Representatives and Congress is getting the opportunity to push these bills to the president so that he could actually pass laws like student loan forgiveness to make sure that you guys get your money back, money that is meant for fair trade. You give them the money, they're supposed to give you the education that they promise, which is not what you got during the pandemic. So, get out there. It's getting close. There's only about 2 weeks left, if not even. Tell your friends about it. Tell your friends to vote with you, to keep you company. At polls, it's important we make this happen, because all other times I don't think people really cared that much about the House, and I don't think people were educated enough to understand, like, hey, that's a really important area. It's just as important as determining who the president is, and what their political agendas are. Now, I'm not going to say they're all innocent if they're considered themselves Democrats or whatever else. That's absolutely not the case. But we obviously see what the other side is doing. So go out there, make that vote, think about this stuff. It's really important because it's going to shape your future. It's not just shaping the future of other people. This is like your life as well, so the older you're going to get, and when you're going to get out of college or high school, that's going to affect how you're going to shape your own life, So right now it might not seem like it's important because, well, you're in high school or you're in college, but this is what's waiting for you when you do get out. Because once they're in, it's going to be really difficult to get them out of there. You would have to actually create a ruckus for them to actually, like a really bad one, so that it affects them. So instead of having to do that, it's better to take a chance on voting the right people in, and holding them accountable on the things that they're promising, and still being active, demanding bills that are going to give us progress. Better paying jobs, better paying hours, better hours for work, instead of being stuck your entire time in jobs that pay pennies while the corporations that own them are banking like trillions of dollars, literally, off of all this, off of your hours of spending time making them rich. You're getting nothing in return for it. And we have to change that, and that really comes from participating in this. Yeah, and once they're in, it's going to give an opportunity for us to eliminate things like gerrymandering. And they're gerrymandering districts so that more votes can count despite despite the voter turnout. You know, it's you guys got to read about it. It's very it's more technical than I can explain at the moment. Or things like the filibuster, where basically if you're trying to pass a law or you're trying to pass a bill onto the next stage of, like, let's say getting to the Senate, the way that they stall it is by just filibustering it, which basically allows them to continuously challenge it over and over and over and over and over again for as long as they like. There's no limit. It's this ridiculous opportunity that's out there right now. It just doesn't make any sense for it to be there for other than for schemes like that. And these are people who are like, oh, we're Christians and we're good people. Meanwhile, they're like cheating their way through everything, manipulating and lying their way through everything. And then they're like, oh, we're Christians. We're good Christians. So yeah. Okay, guy. We believe you. And if you believe them, man, oh man, I feel bad for you. You're just, you're working against your own self-interest. It's a foolish choice. But yeah, getting back to the drawing. So this is the original, as you guys could see. But in here, I changed some things around. For instance, the hair, right? Over here, it's in the front, right, where you could see this, like, it's kind of like a Elvis Presley perm of some sort. Whereas here, it's like a bun, and that's on her hair. But the face is similar. The shape of the face is similar. And note how the direction of the face is this way. You know, as you could see from, like, the forehead, it goes inwards more. The chin isn't protruding out. Whereas, let me see if I can show you other examples. Here's a perfect one. You could see how that's not so much the case. The curve is a lot less dramatic. So let me just quickly show you guys. You could see how the chin is really, it's not coming out at all. The nose is the most prominent point, really. The chin isn't even competing for that prominence. So, whereas here, that's not the case at all. It's not deeply set in. It's not even further away than the lips themselves. Whereas, damn it. I am a little shy to show, like, really old drawings and how terrible they are, so I have to, like, do this whole flipping thing. But yeah, you could see here that the chin isn't protruding out at all, and the lips even are protruding out more than the chin itself. You know, so it's just kind of like tucking her chin in. But yeah, you could see that it's a little bit different than this example. It's slightly different. But no glasses. You know, I removed the glasses there, maybe changed the face expression a little bit, exaggerated. I'm gonna add some lines here. It's almost to suggest a form of shock. You know, she's seeing something really shocking. She's witnessing something that's really shocked her. But yeah, I'm just kind of playing around with stuff. I'm not adding the glasses on there. I changed the hair a little bit, elongated her neck, whereas over here she has like all these multiple folds. And here I gave her a much longer neck, which is still possible. You know, it's not in the realm of complete exaggeration and fantasy. So just another example. I'll be doing more. You know, I'll be back tomorrow because I do actually have to end the stream for figure drawing basics in just a few seconds. But tomorrow I'll be back and I'm going to be demonstrating to you guys an example, something else that's based off of this model right here. I'm going to be doing several other examples to show you guys that process, for you guys to see what are some things that you could change around, and just generally talk about that. So that pretty much does it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It was a blast talking about all this stuff. I hope you guys got some great information about some things that I was talking about politically. Do some research about the brain hemisphere. You know, that's an interesting concept that it's actually based on, you know, facts, and something to think about in terms of, you know, how our brains develop, considering that we're very active, and a lot of us are conditioned to be very active with our right hand. What would things be like if we're more active with our left hand as well? It's kind of an interesting thought. Yeah, especially do some research on all this political stuff. I really encourage you guys to get involved in it. Make the right choice. Don't make the fascist choice. You know, don't help support that or be passive to enable it. It's a really important time. So yeah, take a look into that as well. Do some research on it and get involved. You know, go out there, vote. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm gonna take that 5-minute break, and I'm gonna be back for the project stream, which I'm pretty excited about. There's a lot of stuff that I think happened since the last time I streamed it, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys what that is. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you're digging all this stuff. It would be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys in the next stream.